operation where thousands of aspirants are making their dream a reality with dedicated classes, absolute spot on content, lots and lots of assessments, and evidence based current affairs. So enroll today, subscribe to our channel, and today I welcome you to our Hindu newspaper analysis where I shall be guiding you through today's The Hindu Hyderabad edition, which is for 10th of June 2025. And before we begin, let me quickly glide you down to the first page of the newspaper, where we see that generally we are talking about how the cargo boat across the Kerala coast, which had been set on fire, has now been found. People have been rescued, but there is a dilemma going on. The government, rather than punishing the ownership or the owners of the cargo ship, are resorting to a negotiation based approach where insurance would be provided for all the damages that have been incurred. But there's nothing exclusively detailed about the article. So just after knowing the news, we'll skip on to the more relevant articles of the day. And as we can see, apart from a collection and amalgamation of various newses such as the claustrophobic stampede that happened in Bangalore and water scarcity situation in Telangana, the rising paddy procurement in the states, which are good to know but yet not very crucial for the exam. Let's move on to the editorial page where we have more UPSC mains relevant articles. And the first one on your screen again talks about the census. For the last 1 week, consistently, the newspapers are ablaze with various articles and write-ups about the census 2027 because it is coming after a huge delay, after a long waiting period. But this is more than just a population enumeration, and this article tells you exactly why. So the article here titled "The Census and the Remaking of a People." It opens up its discussion by saying that census is much more than only a technical operation. It is not just about mechanically counting your population, because there is a difference between the word geographical population and the other word called people. Because people are not merely a group of individuals living in an area, people are a political community. Let's just remember what our preamble says. The key to the constitution, it says, "We the people of India." The dimension of the word "we" here refers to a political community which not only knows how to share, allocate resources, but also govern themselves. So that is the entity which census takes into account. Now, this upcoming census of 2027 becomes specially very critical. Why? The first point that this article has made is that one of the main objectives of this upcoming census is, of course, to count the total population, but under two categories, rather under two different groups. Of course, one, we talk about the rural and the urban population. The other happens to be when we divide people, or rather when we count people as they exist in the form of scheduled caste communities, scheduled tribe communities. We talk about economic activity of people, agriculture, industrial, service-based, primary, secondary. Of course, we talk about literacy level among people. We talk about education levels of people. Of course, we talk about housing, we talk about sanitation, we talk about migration, and apart from that, fertility rate, mortality rate too. So which means census is a varied operation. It gives you granular data. That's a very good word here. It's been used in multiple articles in today's newspaper. When we say granular data, we mean a data that is extremely detailed. It gives you a lot of information about many things together. That's exactly what your census is. Another point that this article has made is that when the census talks about languages used by people, when it talks about how people are distributed in the Hindi speaking belt and the non-Hindi speaking belt, census is not only capturing a reality that is true, that is evidence, that is existing in front of you, physical reality, but it also has a greater implication in terms of its political and policy making implication. All the primary data that is being captured through the census by enumerators then gets converted into relevant policy making. It then goes into various programs of the government, funding received to various states by the central government, and hence it not only is a political enumeration, also it becomes a major social, political, economic debate among various states. Having said that, let's talk quickly about Article 81 that this article has pointed out to, but I'm talking about the Article 81 of the Indian Constitution. This article here on census also says that one major issue that we are facing when the census is about to come is that after half a century gap, India's parliamentary representation will be redistributed among states. And as per the Article 81, it mandates, it makes it compulsory that the next census, the next interstate redistribution representation will be according to the population and shall be done only after we get the first relevant figures 2026 onwards. So, which means the first enumeration after 2026 will feed into our redistribution of seats among states, whether you talk about your central legislatures or whether you talk about any other kind of fund allocation decision by the government. So, having said that, there is a lot of debate going on about what happens if the enumeration is done of population and seats in the parliament are allocated only on that basis. This is one article which we had also covered, in fact, just 2 days before. And even in today's newspaper, you will realize that right after this article, there's another article which talks about Kerala in specific. There also same theme is being repeated, that the southern Indian states, particularly Kerala, has shown concern that it is not the mistake of the southern states that they have been able to control their fertility rate. Today it is below the national average. Today it is way below the replacement level fertility, which is estimated at 2.1. That's 2 children every woman. That's also called replacement fertility because at that rate there is no additional need for population control and every generation replicates itself. But that's not happening in southern Indian states. Many of them have fallen way below this. So it is not their fault if they have abided by population control programs of the government. So why should they be punished? Okay, so that's one central debate that's arising. And a similar debate is also about the fact that some southern Indian states today feel that they are getting lesser funds from the Finance Commission only because they are more developed than many North Indian states. So they are also pitching, they are requesting that the fund allocation criteria of the Finance Commission also needs a recalibration. So these are two debates that are coming out from this article also. Now, apart from that, let's remember that the delay in the 2021 census has already, moved us back by about 5 years. And therefore, let's understand that now this data is very crucial because the delimitation, the parliamentary representation has to be done very, very quickly. Now, having said that, let's remember that this is also one census where all the data will be captured completely digitally. So we are going absolutely digital in terms of collection and enumerating this data. So that is a good thing because as per the article, when we have a very digital data collection, we will also ensure a faster processing. The results could be out much sooner than the previous series of census operations. Having said that, let's also remember that now the general election 2029 can fairly be conducted therefore on the basis of a new parliamentary map for India. And what happens if the redistribution or the distribution of population becomes the sole criteria for distributing of parliamentary seats? What then? So again, here the center is saying that the center is specially making an appeal to the states who are very worried. For example, Kerala is one instance here. So center is saying that we will spend some time and we will do a fair delimitation. Do not worry, at an appropriate time. So there's no need to worry. The center is planning to do some calibration on that. Apart from that, what is the article saying? The article is also talking about caste. The article says for the first time after independence of India, all the castes will be counted separately, as against the counting of only SC, scheduled caste, and ST, scheduled tribes until now. So that again gives you a more detailed caste picture. We all know that there are certain categories like the SEBC, the socially educationally backward classes, whom we refer to as the OBC, other backward classes. It's not caste. So that's a very ambiguous category because it has many, many castes and subcastes inside an umbrella term called OBC. So all these details, when taken care of course, enables a better reservation policy, enables better welfare programs for the vulnerable segment. And apart from that, the next delimitation also has another development coming up now. We all remember the 128th Amendment Bill. We all remember how from now onwards, once the delimitation is done, the women of India shall be getting about 1/3 of seats reserved in the parliament, Lok Sabha, and in the state assemblies. So this again talks volumes about the importance of this data collection. Then another issue is, as I said, about 16th Finance Commission. Now we know that in the previous Finance Commission, the southern states have had a lot of grievances against the central government. Particularly states like Kerala have had been complaining that we have not received the amount of funding that we should have. The government has shown a kind of bias towards those states who are more underdeveloped as compared to us economically and socially. But it is not our mistake that we are more industrial, we have a higher per capita income, and we are progressing faster on the economic front. It's not our mistake. So why should then we pay a price? Which means these states today really want, and they have huge expectations from the upcoming 16th Finance Commission's decision that should be out by 31st October 2025. So they are saying that this is a challenge because we need a more systematic horizontal and vertical distribution, allocation of funds from the Finance Commission. So both. The debate is between both. The debate is not only a pitch by the southern states to have better, appropriate funding for themselves. Also, there is a pitch for doing a fair delimitation, which is not only based on population. So these are the two themes the article is trying to cover. The article also says that as all politics in India has been about various attempts to divide, slice, and dice the aggregates of population, this census is particularly important because let's understand that even our educational achievement, even things like gender parity, an appropriate sex ratio, the number of people who are enrolled in primary school, the number of people who have access to primary health care, these are certain dark realities that shall be coming clearly once we have the data, the census operation done. So lots of hope being pegged on the census, and that's pretty much the pitch of this article too. Having said that, let's quickly glide down to the second article, same editorial page. Now this is quite a wonderful article because it talks about women empowerment in agriculture. Across the world, as per this article, women are the ones who contribute about 60 to 80% in global food production across all the developing countries. But for countries like India, the participation of women in agriculture is a more remarkable issue. Why is it a more important issue? Because we know that India, despite being rapidly urbanizing, despite being rapidly industrializing, still primarily we are a rural economy. Even as per the World Bank and as per the UN estimates, till date, we can safely claim that above 60% of our population is still housed in the agriculture sector in the rural India. So that mandates proper women empowerment in agriculture. Why? Let's understand. The article says that United Nations has declared 2026 as the International Year for Woman Farmer. Having said that, it also says that this resolution also highlights the crucial critical role that today women the world over are playing in terms of food production, growing crops, tending to crops, harvesting crops, being participants in supply chain, animal husbandry, and so on. If the role of women is so crucial today, then are we taking care of the problems that they are facing in agriculture? What are the problems women face globally in agriculture? Well, there are so many. To begin with, climate risk. We know that most agriculture segment across the world is today being endangered by radical climate changes, to name a few: global warming, to name a few: flash flooding, scarcity of underground water, chemical contamination of water. But it's always the women who face disproportionate amount of discrimination and suffering when it comes to climate discourse. So that is one, of course, making women experts in dealing with climate problems in agriculture as farmers and as agriculture laborers. Second thing is, despite such an active involvement in agriculture, women do not have property rights. Majority of women farmers are not owners of land. They are merely workers on agricultural land, or maybe they are co-owners, but that too of a very small or marginal piece of land. Nowhere globally are they rich landowners. No. Another problem, the article is saying that women do not have market access. So even if women produce food crops or cash crops, this could be tribal women, this could be non-tribal rural women, they lack access to market, which means they cannot sell their products at a feasible market rate owing to more poverty. If all these are the problems, are we doing something as a global community? Yes. The article says that there are two initiatives. One is the ENACT, ENACT. What is this? ENACT refers to enhancing climate adaptation of vulnerable communities through nature-based solutions. So this is one solution, of course, which means globally the need of the hour is to train women, especially small land holding women, to access climate related choices, which means they should have opportunities to go in for more organic agriculture, pesticide free, chemical free agriculture, nature oriented agriculture. All these initiatives are important to improve their climate resilience. Second, of course, is in concern with the government of Assam. Now, in government of Assam, rather in the agriculture domain of Assam, because of the support received by the World Food Program, WFP, there is a project which is trying to help small land holding women to improve and manage their financial security in case a climate disaster takes place. They are also helping them grow crops like millets, or giving them fertilizers and pesticides which are purely organic in nature, plus enabling them to move towards horticulture also. So all these steps just to ensure them a steady income. Then apart from that, there is another issue, and this is more India specific, as I said, because India is primarily rural, and in India the rates of literacy and land ownership among women are very poor, below global average. So this is especially relevant to India. So let's understand that the problem today is that in India, majority of women do not own lands. In fact, if you talk about entire South Asia, then about 39 to 40% agricultural labor is coming from women. What does it mean? In terms of a more economic language, this is feminization of labor. This is feminization of poverty. If agriculture is a poorly paying occupation, then women are indiscriminately facing today, because they are massive participants in the agriculture sector. So, if this is the situation, then let's understand that approximately 80% of women in India who are working in the informal sector are working in agriculture as labor. Only 14% of landowners are women. So these statistics talk volumes about the gender bias, the gender gap in the agriculture work sector. So, what is the need of the hour? Please empower women. A very good example could be how the government of India has supported small women farmers by creating missions like the Submission on Agriculture Mechanization, which is offering huge financial support to women laborers and landowners in order to buy machinery for agriculture. For example, automatic drilling machines, auto harvesting machines, or seed drillers. All these are enabling women to use machinery so that less physical labor is being expected out of them, and hence it's ensuring them a more healthy approach towards doing agriculture work. Now, apart from that, another thing is that in India, especially in the rural areas, women farmers are also having problems such as they are very poor when it comes to technology adoption. So one thing is giving them technology, another thing is ensuring that the technology is being used by them. This reminds me of another very interesting initiative which was known as the Drone Didi scheme of Government of India, where the government of India had been distributing drones to women farmers so that it can enable them to have a better imagery of their crops, to implement more mechanization in agriculture. So we need such innovative steps today more than ever. Now, the article also says that women have limited access to internet, mobile phones, smartphones. So even if they want to take a loan, or even if they want to understand any welfare scheme meant for them, they cannot take the advantage of that. They lack access to basic information. That's another problem. And hence, when they do not get loans, institutional credit is not there. They have the only choice they have is to borrow money from non-institutional things like money lenders, which further leads to debt burden, intergenerational poverty, and all of these economic problems happen. So let's understand that, for example, government says 30% of the National Food Security Mission's budget is allocated to women farmers. in most of the states and union territories. This is a very welcome measure, of course. Another thing to understand is that today the need of the hour also is to engage and connect women farmers with international experts who can come either online or offline, give them a good training, a first hand training in latest agriculture technology. That's very important. So climate adaptation is one thing, but you can implement it better by doing video conferencing with all the rural women in South Asian countries, particularly in India, where they can learn how to diversify their agriculture techniques. Then apart from that, we can also do something like diversification of farm based livelihoods, which means that not only do women engage actively in cropping, but they also know other allied agriculture activities like animal husbandry and horticulture, and of course selling of basic crop food cash crop materials, say for example minor forest based products or jute based products, coir based product. All of these, a better market access for them also. So this is exactly what the article is saying. Article is saying that since in India the problem of women is unique, because it is not only a problem of poor literacy or poor land ownership or lack of technology, but also it is coupled with religious and cultural biases which disable many women to work, study, and enhance their technological capacity. In this case, we need a more detailed investigation into the real problems of women on the ground. This will give you a more granular data, a very detailed multi-dimensional data which focuses on unique problems of Indian rural women. Once we have this kind of a data, we can then rethink of our farming practices in line with climate resilience, in line with information and technology, in line with diversifying of livelihoods. So therefore, let's support women farmers, and we should also rely more on effective strategies like the self-help groups. Now, in case anybody would want to answer, who is the father of the self-help movement? If you know the answer, do post it in the comment box and we'd love to hear it back from you. Of course, we can then separately explain you about how the Seva began in 1972 in India by Ella Bhatt, and since then, the culture of self-help group has been reigning in across the country, particularly very active in states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Kerala. It enables rural women to have microfinance and hence improve their livelihood and incomes. So that's what the article says. This 2026, the International Year of Women Farmers, is a unique opportunity. Let's make the best of it by further implementing government schemes for women, by further improving international collaborations, and by acknowledging, supporting women in their role for a better food security, for better economic prosperity, and at the end of the day, for more agriculture sustainability. So that is the pitch of this article. And then the next page, that's page number 7, the opinion page, is on the one hand talking about the RCB celebration tragedy, a tragedy that had happened in Karnataka, Bengaluru to be more specific, but this is not exactly translating into our exam relevance, so we'll skip this article. But then there is a right hand column article which talks about foreign aid and financial woes. Nothing really detailed here, but then I would want to give you a quick snapshot here. The article just says that recently the government has agreed to the demand of the Chief Minister of Maharashtra to take help from foreign funds, which is Foreign Contributions Regulatory Act, FCRA. So here the government of Maharashtra has been allowed to take some monetary help from abroad. Okay, but this was not allowed to Kerala just a few while back. So which means that the Kerala government has been unhappy, and the state government of Kerala says this is once again an act of discrimination against us, because when we had asked for monetary help from abroad back in 2018 floods and the ensuing disaster, then the government had refused us from accepting any foreign aid. So why this kind of a bias that's being done to us? And this then later got translated in the same demand as we spoke of the Finance Commission not giving enough funds to Kerala, as what the state has been claiming all these years. So state has been quite active in pointing out to the fact that financial allocation in terms of finance commission is generally based on issues like giving more money to states that are poor in terms of social economic growth, giving more money to states which have more population. So then why should we not get enough funds? Our mistake is to control the population, to stabilize our population growth and to abide by the national population policy, or is it our mistake to be industrialized, utilized? Or is it a mistake to have a higher output, higher economic output? So this is the grievance that the article is generally pointing out towards. And of course, after that, the article is getting mired into a lot of politics, which we will avoid. But just remember these two demands in general. One, how ethical is it? How constitutional would it be to allow states to take foreign help under the FCRA? And what about the allocation, the horizontal devolution and the vertical devolution of funds under the Finance Commission? So these are two things you should remember. Now, having said that, there is another article here that is coming from same page, the last column of the same page. It also talks about the same theme, so nothing very detailed here. It says delimiting by electors rather than population offers a fairer approach, something similar to what we just said. When we are talking about Census 2027, we know that this data will go into redistribution of and recalibration of parliamentary constituencies. So again, this article is making a demand that if we only solely depend on redistribution of parliamentary seats on the basis of population, then this will not be a fair thing towards southern states, which are in a phase of reducing fertility rate and falling populations every single year. So in that case, the southern states feel that we will get fewer parliamentary constituencies, and this is definitely not going to favor our representation at the central level. That's the demand of the article. So therefore, the article is saying that from the very beginning, right from 1950s, there has been an up and down when you talk about the representation of southern states in the parliament in terms of parliamentary constituencies. Say, for example, it was quite high when we talk about 1951, but suddenly it experienced a sudden fall in the decades of 1961, 1971 up till 1999. You might wonder why, but then that is also a period where India's family planning and family welfare programs were really gaining momentum. So probably it was an outcome of better population control on the side of these states. And then, of course, from 2009 to 2024, there has been a very mixed pattern. You know, when you talk about southern representation in parliamentary constituencies, it says that the problem today is that parliamentary seats, if they are allocated only on the basis of population and nothing else, then what happens? The southern states are suffering because they have adhered to strict family planning and population control mechanisms. So therefore, constitutional allocancy should not be based only on population. That's one thing. And the second thing to understand is that linking political representation to population control is setting a very dangerous example. It is not doing us any good for future. It's not giving us a good thing to learn from. Okay, so the article therefore requests that although the population structure of each state is very unique, say for example in terms of religious population, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, all states have a mixed and a very differential quota of these segments. But having said that, the principle of one vote, one person, or one person, one vote, one value in the true sense is more logical if you align your parliamentary constituencies on the basis of electors rather than on the basis of population numbers in every state. That's exactly what this article has said. A pretty ongoing debate. I think this will be going on until we have the data of the census and until the government does some kind of an agreement or negotiation with the states. Now, having said that, let's quickly proceed to a very short article, because yesterday we had spoken about the mission Axiom 4 and I had explained to you the purpose of the mission being the private spacecraft to be sent to the ISS, International Space Station, for various kinds of observations and scientific research. So the mission was scheduled to take off, but then it got postponed. And this time, why was it postponed? It got postponed because of some weather related conditions. So that's a quick excerpt from news that we should know. And weather conditions, since they were not good, the launch of Axiom 4 mission for sending Indian Gagan Yatri to the International Space Station has now been pushed to tomorrow, that's 11th of June 2025. So we'll take up the news in detail as the mission is finally launched. And now let's quickly hop on to the next page that's coming. Okay, so here I just want to give you a quick view of this article, nothing in detail. The article on the science segment talks about asafoetida. Now, asafoetida, which is locally referred to as a Heeng, is a very important add-on in Indian cuisine. But why and what exactly should you know about the article is here. That, let's remember that this uh, this plant, or rather this flowering seed, is typically found in India in states such as the Himalayan territory states. Say, for example, Himachal Pradesh is one area where you will see a lot of this crop being grown. Then, apart from that, as per the reports of CSIR, this can be cultivated in India only in places which do not have an excessive amount of rainfall, because that is detrimental to this crop. So, generally, it thrives in very cold and dry environments, typically Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asia. The plant of the Asafoetida typically prefers a very sandy, a very dry, grainy, and well drained soil with less moisture. The rainfall which is suffice should be about 200 millimeters or less, typically in the Indian Himalayan region and associated states. That's all you need to remember. Say, for example, in India, it's Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand, and then Laul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh. So, that is something we need to remember. That's all about this article. And now we'll proceed quickly to the last article of the day, which talks about drones. And the Operation Sindoor was a big eye wash about the improvement in drone technology, and today its applications are actually making a huge difference to a country's military position in any warfare. Say, for example, the article talks about how today drone technology is becoming a weapon that is the weapon of choice. It's a preferred technology to be used in warfare because it helps in active combating, active targeting of your opponents. Also, it helps you to multiply your force. Let's understand that today we talk about two segments in drone technology. One, of course, is the military grade drone manufacturing, the other is referred to as the commercial grade or the commercial technology oriented drone manufacturing. So here the article says that in India's Operation Sindoor that happened in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack, it is quite clear that the country today, India today, is depending more on the UAV technology, which means the unmanned aerial vehicle technology. And in this specifically, drones are playing a massive, massive part. But not only in India. If you talk about Ukraine's recent success in launching combats against Russia, then even in Ukraine's Operation Spiderweb, the major turning point came when they were using low cost unmanned systems, such as the drone technology to be more precise. Now, having said that, the world popular drone is now becoming a very, very chosen weapon among all others. Why? Of course, because it is enabling you to not only achieve resilience in warfare, modularity, and redundancy in mass produced drone. It is enabling you to do specific targeting and massive targeted damage in one area without affecting the nearby regions. That's one important thing. Second thing to remember is that even during the Azerbaijan Armenia conflict, if you remember, even in the UPSC prelims exam, the Nagorno Karabakh region was in news. It became very famous. So during this war in 2020, the Nagorno Karabakh war, it was demonstrated for the first time in front of the world, in fact, that how successfully drones can change the nature of aerial warfare by improving the capacity of the military. Having said that, let's remember that today, even the war in Ukraine has actually become a great laboratory in terms of experimenting the newer capacities which drone technology is capable of. Having said that, as India continues to develop more and more indigenous manufacturing, yesterday we did an article which spoke about how today's India's defense equipment is becoming more and more indigenous. We are manufacturing our own defense equipment in line with the Atmanirbhar Bharat ideology. Having said that, let's remember, as India is completely on a mission to modernize its military, we are taking lessons from across the world and implementing them to increase and to have a better nuanced achievements for our military. In this case, by operating low altitude drones, we can also have a better coverage in terms of radar. We can also reduce the likelihood of being caught. So, therefore, let's understand that some drones are today so advanced that they are even able to deal with electronic warfare features. For example, it's impossible to track them down no matter which technology you use. Then they also have a jam or a spoof enemy radar and communication system, which means that they survive even in the harshest of geographical conditions. Another thing is that even if they are being able to be used in difficult climatic conditions, a great thing is that they can really confuse the air defense and surveillance system. They can operate in a very sly manner, in a very secretive manner. So therefore, Russia's drone campaign, for example, to saturate Ukrainians' air defenses was a very good example here again. Now, India's defense system are today completely being integrated under the integrated air command and control system. So therefore, we have performed quite well against numerous Pakistani drones and missile attacks in the wake of Operation Sindoor, of course. So today, innovation and technology of drone use is not only giving you an upper hand in specific targeting and in multiplying your capacity, but also it is enabling you to enable more commercial systems, because military drone manufacturing is more expensive. It needs a lot of import in terms of its components, but that's not true with regards to your commercial grade drones. So they can definitely be modified and used in warfare. That is one lesson we learn from the article. Another thing is that in India, drones complement all the other weapons that we have. So it's a great add-on to our existing fleet of equipments. Now, say for example, China's drone fleet. So that is also today using great technologies such as the Soaring Dragon or the BZK-005. So all these are designed to overwhelm, completely confuse enemy responses and enemy defense systems. So all in all, the major pitch made by the article is that today India has certain deficiencies when we talk about procurement of defense equipment. So one thing is, of course, we need to improve our production capacity. Another thing is that we need to invest more in the nuanced drone technology as such. Specifically, the commercial grade ones can be modified into military usage so that there is a low cost involved, and also we have a faster turnover given the excessive geopolitical insecurities of the times that we are living in. And that was all for today's newspaper. All these articles were important. Should you have any questions, please post them down in the comment box. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you tomorrow with another interesting news segment. Thank you.